Eric Wells stood at the viewing window of the horizon, looking out at the stars. The research ship was quiet today. Most of the crew was working in the labs below, studying samples from the last planet they had visited. Eric enjoyed these quiet moments. Space was peaceful, vast, and full of secrets. The alarm broke his calm. It blared through the ship, making Eric jump. Red lights flashed in the hallway. Something was wrong. All senior officers to the bridge. Captain Lisa Morgan's voice came through the speakers. We have an emergency situation. Eric ran to the bridge. He was the science officer, and emergencies often needed his help. When he arrived, he saw Captain Morgan standing at the main screen. Her face was serious. What's happening, Captain? Eric asked, slightly out of breath. We received a distress signal, Lisa said, pointing at the screen. There's an alien ship about 30 minutes from our position. They've had some kind of engine failure. The screen showed a ship unlike any Eric had seen before. It was shaped like a teardrop, with glowing blue lines running along its hull. Do we know who they are? Eric asked, studying the strange design. They identify themselves as Alaxians, Lisa said. From what our database tells us, they're peaceful. They're mainly explorers and traders. We've never had direct contact with them before. Chief Engineer Paul Green spoke up from his station. Their ship is venting plasma. Their main drive is failing. If we don't help them, they'll be stranded. Lisa nodded. We're going to help. Eric, I want you on the welcome team. They might need medical help, and you know more about alien biology than anyone else on this ship. Eric nodded, feeling a mix of excitement and worry. First contact situations were rare and dangerous. One small mistake could cause big problems. An hour later, Eric stood in the docking bay as the airlock opened. The air smelled strange, like cinnamon and metal. 4 aliens stepped through the door. They were tall, at least 7 feet in height. Their skin was blue, like the deep ocean, and seemed to shimmer slightly under the lights. Each had 6 long fingers on each hand. The most striking feature was their heads. They had ridges that ran from their foreheads back over their skulls, almost like crowns. Eric stepped forward. Welcome to the horizon. I'm Science Officer Eric Wells. The tallest alien touched its chest and made a sound like bells chiming. The translator on Eric's wrist buzzed and spoke in a flat voice. Greetings. I am ... leader. Gratitude for ... rescue. The translation was rough, but the meaning was clear enough. The aliens were thankful. Lisa stepped forward. I'm Captain Lisa Morgan. Your ship is safe in our bay. Our engineers will help repair it. The translator worked both ways, turning her words into the musical language of the aliens. The tall one nodded, but its face, with large, pupil-less eyes, showed what Eric thought might be worry. Food ... need. Different, the translator said as the alien spoke again. Eric frowned. I think they're concerned about food. Let's show them to the dining area and see if we can figure out what they can eat. In the ship's mess hall, the aliens looked at the human food with what seemed like growing panic. Eric brought samples of everything they had: fruits, vegetables, proteins, even the special dietary options. The aliens scanned each item with a small device and shook their heads each time. Olivia Clark, the ship's botanist, joined them. What's wrong? She asked Eric quietly. I think they can't eat anything we have, Eric said. Their biology must be very different from ours. The tallest alien spoke again, longer this time. The translator struggled. Our bodies ... reject ... your foods. ALL poison to us. Had ... emergency supplies ... destroyed in ... ship damage. Eric felt a chill. This was a serious problem. Do you have any food left? He asked. The alien held Up 3 fingers. Days ... worth. Not enough. Lisa looked concerned. How long until your people can rescue you? 5. Maybe 6. Days, came the translated reply. Eric and Lisa exchanged worried glances. 3 days of food, 5 days until rescue. This was not good. We'll figure something out, Eric promised. Over the next few hours, Eric learned more about their guests. The ship's computer managed to improve the translation a little. The tall alien was a kind of ambassador. They were on a diplomatic mission when their ship had problems. The 4 aliens were now stuck with humans who couldn't feed them. By evening, Eric noticed the aliens' blue skin seemed less bright. They moved slower, clearly trying to save energy. They were already hungry. In his quarters that night, Eric couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about his grandfather, who had taught him about finding food in the wild. Everything has a place in the web of life, his grandfather used to say. What's poison to one creature is food to another. That gave Eric an idea. He got up and went to the ship's database terminal. He entered his security code to access the classified xenobotany files, records of plant-like organisms found in space. Passed as Eric read report after report. His eyes burned from looking at the screen for so long. Just as he was about to give up, he found something. A report from 10 years ago mentioned organisms that grew on the outside of ships. Most space agencies considered them pests, cosmic weeds, that could damage sensors if left unchecked. What caught Eric's eye was the chemical analysis. The weeds contained compounds similar to some listed in the partial data they had received. About Zolaxian biology. Eric checked the ship's exterior scan history. Sure enough, a Horizon had its own collection of cosmic weeds growing on its hull. Most ships did. They were so common that cleaning them off was just routine maintenance. Eric jumped up, suddenly wide awake, despite having been up all night. He needed to talk to the captain. These weeds just might save their alien visitors from starving. As he rushed toward the bridge, Eric felt a surge of hope. Sometimes solutions were hiding in plain sight. What humans saw as pests might be exactly what the aliens needed to survive. Captain Lisa Morgan listened carefully as Eric explained his idea. The bridge was quiet in the early morning hours, with only the night shift present. So you think these weeds growing on our hull might be food for our guests? Lisa asked, looking doubtful. The chemical makeup is similar to what little we know about their food, Eric said. He showed her the data on his tablet. Look at these compounds. They match what we found in the small amount of emergency rations the aliens had left. Lisa studied the screen. Even if you're right, how do we harvest these weeds? They're on the outside of the ship. We do a spacewalk, Eric said simply. I can gather samples, Lisa frowned. That's risky, Eric. So is letting 4 diplomatic visitors starve to death on our ship, Eric countered. After a moment, Lisa nodded. Okay, but you take all safety precautions, and Paul goes with you as backup. 2 hours later, Eric was in an airlock, dressed in a full spacewalk suit. His heart beat fast as the air hissed out of the chamber. Beside him, Chief Engineer Paul. Green gave him a thumbs up. Remember, stay tethered at all times, Paul's voice said through the helmet comm. Those weeds tend to grow in the shadow areas of the hull. We'll check the north quadrant first. The outer door opened, and Eric looked. Out into the blackness of space. Stars shone brightly, more clearly than he had ever seen them through the ship's windows. The vastness made him feel tiny. Carefully, Eric pushed himself out of the airlock. The tether connecting him to the ship pulled tight, then slackened as Paul fed him more line. Eric used his suit's small thrusters to move along the hull. There, Paul said over the comm. See that dark patch near the sensor array? Eric turned and saw what Paul was pointing at. In the shadow of a communications dish, There was a cluster of something growing on the hull. It looked like moss, but it sparkled slightly, catching the distant starlight. The weeds were beautiful up close, patches of iridescent growth with tiny crystal-like structures mixed in. "I see them," Eric replied, moving closer. Using a collection tool, Eric carefully scraped some of the growth into a sample container. He worked slowly, making sure not to damage the hull. The weeds came off easily, almost like they wanted to be collected. "Getting some strange readings here," Paul said. "The weeds seem to be giving off a mild radiation signature. Is it dangerous?" Eric asked, pausing his work. "No, just unusual. It's like they're storing energy from space radiation and converting it somehow." Eric collected samples from 3 different patches, each one slightly different in color and texture. When the containers were full, he and Paul made their way back to the airlock dock. Once inside the ship again, Eric took the samples straight to the science lab. Olivia was waiting for him, eager to examine the cosmic weeds. "These are fascinating," she said as she looked at them under a microscope. "They're not really plants as we understand them. They're something new, part plant, part crystal, part something else entirely." Eric was more concerned with a different question. "But can the aliens eat them?" "Let's find out," Olivia said, running tests on the samples. While they waited for results, Eric went to check on the aliens. Their condition had worsened. The ambassador, as the humans now called the tallest one, could barely stand. The blue color of their skin had faded to a dull gray. They were saving energy by staying in their quarters, moving as little as possible. "We may have found something for you to eat," Eric told them. "We're testing it now." The ambassador's large eyes blinked slowly. "Thank ... chew ... trying." Eric felt terrible seeing them so weak. He hurried back to the lab, hoping for good news. Olivia and the ship's medical officer, Alan Peters, were looking at test results when Eric returned. "Well?" Eric asked anxiously. Alan smiled. "I think you might have saved their lives, Eric. The weeds contain compounds very similar to what we found in their emergency rations. But there are some elements that might be harmful to them." "Can we remove the harmful parts?" Eric asked. "Already working on it," Olivia said. "We're separating the components now." For the next few hours, they worked to process the cosmic weeds. They removed potentially toxic elements and concentrated the parts that matched the alien's nutritional profile. The result was a paste-like substance that glowed with a faint blue light. "It looks like alien food from a science fiction movie," Alan joked. Eric carefully placed some of the paste in a container. "Let's hope it works like alien food, too." When Eric brought the blue paste to the aliens' quarters, the ambassador and the others gathered around weakly. Eric explained through the translator what they had found and how they had processed it. The ambassador took the container and studied the glowing paste. The 4 aliens spoke to each other in their musical language, too complex for the translator to pick up fully. Then, with what seemed like hesitation, the ambassador took a small amount of the paste and put it in its mouth. The humans held their breath. For a moment, nothing happened. Then suddenly, the ambassador's dull skin flushed with color. The blue returned, brighter than before, almost pulsing. The alien made a sound that the translator struggled with before saying, "Good, very good, ... life." The other aliens quickly took their portions. Within minutes, all 4 were showing signs of improvement. Their movements became more energetic, and their skin regained its vibrant blue color. "It worked," Eric whispered to Olivia, who had joined him to observe the results. The ambassador approached Eric. With renewed strength, it spoke more clearly, and the translator had an easier time. "You have given us life. This food. Special. To us. We thought it lost in this part of space." Eric was surprised. "You know these weeds?" Not weeds, the translator conveyed as the ambassador spoke. Sacred growth, rare delicacy in our culture, believed extinct here. This was unexpected. What humans considered space pests, the Zalaxians saw as precious food. Eric realized how different their perspectives were, and how lucky it was that he had thought to check the xenobotany database. "Can you show us how to find more?" the ambassador asked. "We can teach you about them." Eric nodded. "We would be honored to learn." As they left the aliens' quarters, Olivia nudged Eric. "You know what this means, right? You just discovered the first known food source that humans and Zalaxians can both recognize. That's the beginning of something important." Eric hadn't thought of it that way, but she was right. Food was universal. All species needed to eat. Finding common ground, there could be the start of real understanding between their peoples. "Captain Morgan will want to know about this," Eric said. "I think our mission just got a lot more interesting." By the third day, the aliens were much stronger. Their skin glowed with a healthy blue color, and they moved with energy. The paste made from the cosmic weeds had saved them from hunger. Now they wanted to share knowledge with the humans who had helped them. Eric sat with the ambassador in the ship's conference room. Captain Lisa joined them, along with Olivia and Alan. The translator had been updated with new words from both languages, making conversation easier. "These growths you call weeds," the ambassador began. "We call them starbloom. They are special to our people." "Special how?" Eric asked, curious. "Long ago, our ancestors found starbloom growing on the first ships they sent into space. When they ate it by accident, they discovered it had great value. It makes our minds clearer and our bodies stronger." Lisa leaned forward. "So it's like a medicine for you?" "Yes and no," the ambassador replied. "It is food, but also more. It connects us to the stars. We used to grow it everywhere in our home system, but a great light from a dying star swept through our region of space many years ago. After that, starbloom became rare. We thought it was gone from this part of the galaxy." Eric nodded, understanding. "The radiation from a supernova might have killed off most of these organisms in your region, but they survived here, where the radiation didn't reach." "Exactly," the ambassador said. "Finding starbloom here is ... important to us." "Would you teach us how to grow it properly?" Olivia asked. "As a botanist, I'd love to learn." The ambassador made a musical sound that the translator didn't catch, but it seemed like agreement. "We would be honored. In return, perhaps you could share some of your growing methods for your own plants." Lisa smiled. "That sounds like a fair trade." For the rest of the morning, the ambassador showed Olivia and Eric how to care for the starbloom. The aliens had special techniques for helping it grow faster and produce more nutrients. They explained that the crystals in the starbloom collected energy from space radiation and turned it into food. "It's amazing," Eric said, watching as the ambassador demonstrated how to gently break off pieces without damaging the main growth. "It's like farming, but in space." "All life finds ways to survive," the ambassador said, "even in the emptiness between stars." By afternoon, Eric had an idea. "Captain," he said to Lisa during a break, "what if we set up a growing area for the starbloom? We could use one of the external storage bays. If we clear it out and modify it, it would be perfect." Lisa thought for a moment. "That could work. Bay 3 isn't being used for anything important. And if these starbloom are as valuable as our guests say, it might be worth the effort." "I'll help set it up," Olivia offered. "We can adjust the environment to make it ideal for growth." With the captain's approval, they began work on what they started calling the diplomatic garden. Paul and his engineering team cleared out storage. Bay 3 had installed special lights that mimicked space radiation at safe levels. They created areas of shadow and light, matching the conditions where starbloom grew best on the ship's hull dot. The aliens were excited about the project. They shared more details about Starbloom Care as the work progressed. Eric was amazed at how much they knew about these space-dwelling organisms. How did your people first discover Starbloom could be eaten? Eric asked the ambassador as they watched the engineers work. Our history says the first space travelers ran out of food, the ambassador explained. They were going to die. One brave explorer ate the strange growth on their ship, expecting to die, but hoping to learn if it was poison. Instead, she became stronger. She saved her crew by showing them this new food. Eric smiled. So your people had someone like me who took a chance on space weeds. The ambassador made a sound like soft bells, which Eric now recognized as laughter. Yes, though she was much more desperate than you. Your choice came from knowledge. Hers came from having no choice at all. By evening, the diplomatic garden was taking shape. Olivia had transferred several large patches of Starbloom from the hull to the growing trays in the bay. Under the special lights, they seemed to shimmer more brightly. Look at this, Olivia called to Eric, pointing at one of the patches. It's already spreading to the new areas. These things grow fast when they're happy. The ambassador examined the setup with approval. This is good work. In our culture, we would now share a meal to celebrate a new garden. Lisa, who had come to check on their progress, smiled at the suggestion. I think we can arrange that. A formal dinner to celebrate our new friendship. That night, the ship's mess hall was transformed. The crew set up two separate eating areas, one with human food and one with Starbloom prepared in different ways the aliens had shown them. Though neither species could eat the other's food, they could share the experience of dining together. The ambassador sat at the main table with Lisa, Eric, and the other senior officers. The rest of the crew and the other three aliens sat at tables around them. It was the first real social event between the two species. On behalf of the Zalaxian Confederation, the ambassador said, standing to address everyone, I offer thanks and friendship. When we were in need, you helped us. When we were hungry, you fed us. These actions speak louder than any words could. Lisa raised her glass. And we thank you for sharing your knowledge. This is how different peoples should meet, by helping each other and learning together. Everyone raised their drinks in a toast. It was a simple gesture, but meaningful. Two different species from distant parts of the galaxy, sharing a meal and friendship. After dinner, the ambassador asked to speak privately with Lisa and Eric. They moved to a quiet corner of the room. There is something I must tell you, the ambassador said, looking more serious. Our ship's failure was real, but our presence in this part of space was not entirely accidental. Eric and Lisa exchanged glances. What do you mean? Lisa asked carefully. We had heard rumors that Starbloom might exist near your solar system. Our government sent us to investigate, under the cover of a standard diplomatic mission. We did not expect to find it growing on your very ships. Lisa's expression hardened slightly. So you were on a secret mission to our territory? Not with bad intentions, the ambassador said quickly. Starbloom is very important to our people. But we would have contacted your government properly if we had found it. The ship failure was not planned, I assure you. Eric stepped in, seeing tension building. What matters is that we've all learned something valuable. You found your Starbloom, and we found new friends and knowledge. Sometimes the best discoveries happen by accident. The ambassador's posture relaxed. You are wise, Eric Wells. Your people are fortunate to have someone who sees beyond initial distrust. As Eric walked back to his quarters that night, he thought about how differently things could have gone. If he hadn't checked the xenobotany database, if he hadn't remembered his grandfather's words about the web of life, the aliens might have weakened and died before their rescue arrived. Instead, humans and Zalassians were now sharing knowledge and building trust. All because of some weeds that nobody had thought were important. Sometimes, Eric reflected, the things we overlook contain the greatest value. We just need to see them through different eyes. On the fourth day, Eric woke early and went straight to the diplomatic garden. He found the ambassador already there, examining the starbloom patches. In just one day, the growths had spread across most of the trays. "Good morning," Eric said. "The garden is doing well." The ambassador turned, the blue skin on their face brightening in what Eric now recognized as a smile. "Very well. Your ship provides good conditions. The starbloom is happy here." Eric looked at the shimmering patches. They seemed to pulse gently, as if breathing. "It almost looks alive in a way that's different from normal plants." "That is because starbloom exists between definitions," the ambassador explained. "It is not just a plant. It is not just a crystal. It is something that evolved to live in space itself." "How is that possible?" Eric asked. "Space is empty, cold, and has radiation. Life finds ways," the ambassador said. "The starbloom uses radiation as energy. The cold of space preserves its structure. The emptiness protects it from many dangers." "Your people have a saying about nature and empty spaces?" "Nature abhors a vacuum," Eric said, remembering his old science lessons. "Yes, but some life learns to love the vacuum," the ambassador replied. "That is the genius of starbloom." As they talked, Olivia joined them, carrying research equipment. "Good morning," she said cheerfully. "I've been studying the samples all night. These organisms are amazing. They seem to have tiny structures that work like solar panels, but for radiation instead of light." The ambassador nodded. "Yes, we call them star catchers. They collect energy that passes through space." Olivia set up her equipment and began taking readings from the growing patches. "The growth rate is incredible. At this pace, we'll have 3 times as much by tomorrow. Enough to fill our food stores before our rescue ship arrives," the ambassador said, "and perhaps some to share with your scientists if you wish." "That would be wonderful," Eric said. "I'm sure Earth scientists would love to study it." The ambassador hesitated, then spoke again. "There is more I should tell you about starbloom. It does more than nourish our bodies." Eric and Olivia listened closely as the ambassador explained. "When we consume starbloom, it enhances our minds. It helps us think more clearly and see connections we might miss otherwise. Some of our greatest scientific advances came after our thinkers ate starbloom. It does not make us smarter, exactly, but it helps us use our minds better." "Like a cognitive enhancer?" Olivia asked. "Yes, but natural and without the problems of artificial drugs," the ambassador said. "It works only for our biology. We do not know what effect it might have on humans, if any." Eric thought about this new information. "That makes starbloom even more valuable to your people. No wonder your government sent you looking for it. It is why sharing this garden is such an important step between our peoples," the ambassador said. "It shows great trust." Later that day, Captain Lisa called a meeting of all senior officers. Eric, Olivia, and the ambassador attended, along with Paul and several others from the crew. "We've received a message from Earth Command," Lisa announced. "They're very interested in our contact with the Zalaxians. They've asked us to begin formal diplomatic talks and to share all information about the starbloom." "That's great news," Eric said. "There's more," Lisa continued. "The Zalaxian rescue ship will arrive tomorrow, a day earlier than expected. They're sending a diplomatic team as well as engineers to repair the ambassador's ship." The ambassador made a musical sound of pleasure. "This is good. Our leaders are also eager for formal talks." "What about the starbloom garden?" Olivia asked. "Will we continue it?" "That's one of the things we need to discuss," Lisa said. "Earth Command is proposing a joint research project. They want to establish a permanent growing facility in Earth orbit with both human and Zalaxian scientists working together. The ambassador's skin brightened. This would be acceptable to my government. We have much to learn from each other. For the rest of the day, the humans and aliens worked together to prepare for the arrival of the rescue ship. The engineers checked over the damaged Zalaxian vessel, making sure it was stable. The science team gathered data about the star bloom. The communications officer, Samantha Wright, worked with the ambassador to improve the translation system. That evening, Eric found the ambassador looking out a viewing board at the stars. "Thinking about home?" Eric asked, joining them. "Yes," the ambassador admitted, "but also thinking about how strange life is. We came looking for Starbloom, had an accident, and ended up finding not just the Starbloom, but new friends. The universe works in odd ways sometimes," Eric agreed. "In our culture, we have a concept called the fortunate mistake," the ambassador said. "It means a failure that leads to something better than the original plan would have achieved. This journey has been a fortunate mistake," Eric smiled. "I like that idea. In human history, many great discoveries happened by accident. Like your discovery that Starbloom could feed us," the ambassador pointed out. "That wasn't just me," Eric said modestly. "It was teamwork and a bit of luck." "No," the ambassador insisted. "It was more than luck. It was seeing value where others saw only weeds. That kind of vision is rare and precious." They stood in comfortable silence for a while, watching the stars. "Tomorrow, our peoples take their first official steps toward friendship," the ambassador said finally. "But the real first step was when you decided to check if space weeds might be food. Sometimes the biggest things start very small," Eric replied. As they talked, Samantha came hurrying down the corridor. "Eric, ambassador," she called. "We've received new transmissions from both our governments. They want us to draft a preliminary agreement about the Starbloom research project tonight, before the rescue ship arrives." "Both governments are moving quickly," the ambassador noted, sounding surprised. "Apparently, both sides see this as a major opportunity," Samantha explained. "Earth Command called it the botanical discovery of the century. They're already talking about applications for space farming." Eric smiled. "So much excitement over what we used to scrape off our hull during maintenance." "One person's weed is another's treasure," the ambassador said. Using a human-like expression, they must have learned from the crew. Through the night, Eric worked with Samantha and the ambassador to draft what would later be known as the Cosmic Cultivation Agreement. It outlined how humans and Zalaxians would work together to grow and study Starbloom, sharing the benefits of research while respecting each other's territories. As they worked, Eric realized how much had changed in just 4 days. What began as an emergency rescue had turned into the foundation for cooperation between two spacefaring civilizations, all because he had wondered if space weeds might feed hungry aliens. Sometimes, Eric thought, the most important discoveries don't look important at first. They just look like weeds, growing quietly in the shadows, waiting for someone to see their true value. The 5th day arrived with a buzz of excitement throughout the horizon. Everyone was busy preparing for the arrival of the Zalaxian rescue ship. Eric had barely slept, but he didn't feel tired. The importance of the day kept him alert and focused. In the early morning, Eric checked on the diplomatic garden one last time. The Starbloom had grown even more overnight. The once small patches now covered nearly all the growing surfaces. The blue-green growths sparkled under the special lights, their crystal structures catching and bending the light into tiny rainbows. "It's beautiful," Olivia said, joining him at the entrance to the garden. "Hard to believe we used to clean these off our hull without a second thought." "We didn't know what we had," Eric replied. "Sometimes the most valuable things are the ones we overlook." Captain Lisa's voice came over the ship's speakers. "Attention all crew. The Zalaxian vessel will dock in 30 minutes. All senior officers report to the main docking bay. Eric and Olivia hurried to their quarters to change into their formal uniforms. This was a historic moment, the first official meeting between human and Zalaxian authorities. Everything had to be perfect. When Eric arrived at the docking bay, he found Captain Lisa and the ambassador already there, reviewing the final draft of the Cosmic Cultivation Agreement. "Is everything ready?" Eric asked. Lisa nodded. "As ready as we can be. Earth Command has reviewed our draft agreement and approved it. The ambassador says their government has done the same. This is a good day for both our peoples," the ambassador said. Their blue skin seemed to shine more brightly than usual, a sign of happiness in Zalaxians. The ship's sensors detected the approaching Zalaxian vessel. It was much larger than the ambassador's damaged ship, sleek and teardrop-shaped with glowing blue lines running along its hull, but 3 times the size. "They've sent the Stellar Harmony," the ambassador said with surprise in their voice. "That is one of our most important diplomatic ships. They're taking this seriously," Lisa noted. "As they should," the ambassador replied. "This could change the future for both our species." The docking sequence began. Everyone stood straight as the airlock connected the 2 ships. There was a hiss of air as pressure equalized. Then the doors slid open. 5 Zalaxians entered the scene. Horizon, they wore ornate clothing with symbols that the ambassador had explained represented their rank and position. The leader of the group was taller than the ambassador, with skin that had a slight purple tint to the blue. The ambassador stepped forward and greeted them in the musical Zalaxian language. After a brief exchange, they turned to introduce the newcomers. Captain Lisa Morgan, Science Officer Eric Wells. This is High Diplomat Zellern of the Zalaxian Confederation. The tall Zalaxian bowed slightly. "Greetings, humans of Earth. We are honored by your assistance to our people and excited by what you have discovered together." Lisa stepped forward. "The honor is ours, High Diplomat. We welcome you to the Horizon." The formal greetings continued for several minutes as each member of both teams was introduced. Finally, Lisa invited everyone to the conference room where they would sign the agreement. As they walked through the ship, Eric noticed the Zalaxian visitors looking with interest at everything around them. This was likely their first time on a human vessel. In the conference room, the agreement was displayed on the main screen for all to see. It outlined the terms for the joint research project on starbloom cultivation. Both sides would share all scientific findings. Humans would provide space for growing facilities in Earth orbit. Zalaxians would share their centuries of knowledge about starbloom care and uses. "Before we sign," High Diplomat Zellern said, "I wish to add one more thing to this agreement." Everyone tensed slightly, worried that there might be a problem. "The Zalaxian Confederation wishes to name Science Officer Eric Wells as the human coordinator for this project. His insight saved our people and discovered a treasure both our species can share. It seems fitting that he should lead the human side of this endeavor." Eric was stunned. He looked at Captain Lisa, who smiled and nodded her approval. I would be honored," Eric managed to say. With that settled, both Lisa and Zellern signed the agreement. It was official. The first formal cooperation between humans and Zalaxians had begun. After the signing, there was a small celebration in the mess hall. Humans and Zalaxians couldn't share food, but they could share the moment. Eric found himself the center of attention, with many questions from both sides. During a quiet moment, the ambassador approached Eric with a small container. "For you," they said, holding it out. "A gift." Eric took the container. Inside were what looked like tiny crystals, similar to the ones in the starbloom, but different somehow. "What are these?" Eric asked. "Seeds," the ambassador explained. "A special variety of starbloom that our botanists developed. They grow faster and produce more nutrients than the wild type. They are the first non-classified Zalaxian biological material ever shared with humans. Eric was touched by the gift. Thank you. I'll make sure they're well cared for. I know you will, the ambassador said. You saw value where others saw only weeds. That is a rare quality in any species. Later, as the engineers from both ships worked to prepare the damaged Zalaxian vessel for towing, Eric stood at a viewing window watching the activity. Olivia joined him. So, Coordinator Wells, she said with a smile, how does it feel to be in charge of humanity's first alien botanical project? Eric laughed. Overwhelming. Exciting. A little scary. You'll do great, Olivia assured him. After all, you've already proven you can think outside the box, or outside the hull, in this case. I couldn't have done it without you and the team, Eric said. True, Olivia agreed with a grin. But it was your idea to check if space weeds could feed aliens. That was the spark that started all this. Eric looked out at the stars. I keep thinking about what my grandfather used to say about the web of life. He told me that everything has a place, everything has a purpose. We just need to find it. Wise man, Olivia said. He would have loved this, Eric replied. Imagine, the web of life extends even into space itself. The next morning, it was time for the Zalaxians to leave. Their damaged ship had been secured to the larger rescue vessel. The ambassador and the other 3 original visitors would travel home on the Stellar Harmony. The goodbye was brief but warm. The ambassador touched their forehead to Eric's in the Zalaxian gesture of respect. Until we meet again, Eric Wells, they said, at the new research station. Until then, Eric replied. Safe travels. As the Zalaxian ships pulled away from the horizon, Eric watched from the viewing window. In just 5 days, so much had changed. What began as a rescue mission had become the foundation for a new relationship between 2 spacefaring peoples. In his quarters, Eric looked at the container of seeds the ambassador had given him. They sparkled in the light, full of potential. Just like the friendship between humans and Zola XINS. Eric began drafting a proposal for the new research division he would lead. He titled it, Cosmic Cultivation, Building Bridges Through Botanical Discovery. Sometimes, he thought, the most important discoveries aren't grand or obvious. Sometimes they're just small, overlooked things growing quietly in the shadows, waiting for someone to see their true value, like weeds on a spaceship hull. That turned out to be so much more.